2020, so all the books that I really enjoyed of 2020, and then there'll be a part 2 which is the books that really disappointed me in 2020. So if you like reading or you enjoyed any of these books that I mentioned, subscribe. This one, so just a tad bit cold, just a bit cold in here. So I think my top 5 thrillers that I read last year and my top 5 romances that I read last year, because I read a lot of both genres I think, but I think my main genre that got me back into reading was thriller and crime books. We have an array of those books obviously. I do also have a Bookstagram as well, so I will leave that down below. Thrillers first. So my first 5-star, I think, rating out of 5, but if I did, I definitely know it would have been a 5-star read, because I read it in 48 hours, and I either take weeks to read a book, or if I really am enjoying the story, I will read it straight in like 48 hours if I'm loving the story. So Samantha Downing is quite a new author. I read her first book, My Lovely Wife, like 2 years ago when I was on holiday. Also read that in like 2 days, and I just love her style of writing. And if you're after a thriller mystery that leaves you with a lot of questions, and even at the end you're like, I'm a bit confused as to like what is the answer supposed to be, and then they leave you with a rhetorical question that you end up thinking, but what is the correct answer? You'll never know. And this is a book about a family, secrets and lies and siblings, and obviously all siblings don't get along all of the time, and it's about a they get left a will from their father, and they have to go on a road trip to all these different parts of states and everything that they did when they were kids, and there's just lots of like lies and that are uncovered, and you know, do they really not like each other, or who is it's a story about lying, it's a story about murder, and only one of these siblings can win the money from the will. So 5 out of 5, highly recommend, and I'm very excited to read Samantha Downing's new book, which comes out at some point this year. It was The Family Upstairs by Lisa Joelle. I absolutely loved this book. Oh my god, it was the first book by Lisa Joelle that I read. Again, read it within like 24 hours. And I think sometimes with books that you really enjoy, you have to like pace yourself, because you don't want the story to be over, or you want to like sit with the story enough to like let it sink in, but you don't want to forget the story if you read stuff too fast. You know, does that make sense? I don't know. I gave this 4.5 stars out of 5. So in a large house in fashionable Chelsea, a baby is awake in her cot, well fed and cared for. She's happily waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen lies 3 decomposing corpses. Close to them is a hastily scrawled note, dead for several days. So who's looking after the baby, and where have they gone? Like, how is the baby still alive? Who's looking after the baby with all these people dead? Like, wow. I loved it so much. I feel like when you read a lot of thriller books and crime books, it can become really easy to guess the plot twist, or guess the, you know, where the story's going to go within the first like 100 pages if you're really used to reading them. But I just think there should have been like a trigger warning with this book, because it did cover, there were some like really abusive characters, and some subjects that were difficult to read, but I just loved this book, and the twist, I didn't guess it, and that says something, and I loved it. Do I need to say more? And I really want to read more of Lisa Joelle's book, because this is I think I've only read 2 of her books so far, so let me know what other books of hers you recommend. The Lying Room by Nishi French. I gave this 4 stars. I gave this 4 stars. My boyfriend got me this one day from the shop, just saw a book and thought, this sounds like a book you'd enjoy reading, he was correct. It took me so long to read like the last thriller I read before this one, which was an Agatha Christie one, I think, and I just wasn't used to reading Agatha Christie books, obviously. Anyway, story of Neve, and did she or didn't she kill her lover? Why go to the effort of covering a crime scene when she wasn't the one who committed the crime? Who was setting her up? Was it her daughter or co-worker? You're left wondering, like, who did it? Why is she covering up a scene if she wasn't the one to commit murder? Like, what's the point of covering up a crime that you did not commit to, obviously. Loved it, highly recommend. I think the only like bad thing about this is the chapters are really long. They're like 100, are they 100 pages? I don't know. They're like 50 pages or something each, but I'm more used to being like each page kind of chapters. I don't know, maybe I just need to read read books with longer chapters, but who knows. They could have just ended this story a bit sooner. Also, fun fact, did you know Nishi French are husband and wife, and very fun read, and I love the cover of this book, so also highly recommend. The fourth thriller / 4/5-star thriller I read last year was The Christmas Killer by Alex Pine, and I feel like this had so much hype on Bookstagram. It was everywhere at one point, and then it got really mixed reviews, and I was reading like, I'm really enjoying this book, and then literally everyone that reviewed it was like, I hated it, I really hated it, and I was like, okay, but I enjoyed it, and like, if you enjoyed the story, I didn't find it very predictable. Unpopular opinion, I don't know. I didn't really guess it at all. So it was just a fun one to read like around Christmas time, and my sister and her fiance got me this for Christmas. I read it in like a day. As the snow begins to fall, the body count continues to climb. D.I. James Walker is ready for a quiet family Christmas in the sleepy village of Kirby Abbey, but when he opens an early Christmas present left on his doorstep, he soon realises it's no gift. Inside is a gruesome surprise, a promised 12 days, 12 murders, not long after the first body is found, half frozen in the snow. As blizzards descend, panic spreads through the Cumbrian village. There's a killer amongst them, and with 11 more victims to go, who could be next? Can James stop the killer before they strike again? I did not guess the twist at all, and like I said, I don't normally read a book in like a day, but this one I read literally on Boxing Day, I think, and I really enjoyed it. Didn't really waste any time getting to the plot, and this is a qualm I have with the guest list by Lucy Foley, which I'll mention in my disappointing reads of 2020, which will be up soon. Anyway, start happening. They get away from London. Short chapters is also a love of mine that I've discovered. If it's a short chapter or if it's different perspectives, you know, that's my easy read. Yeah, if you read a lot of thrillers and crime books, you're pretty used to guessing who did. Well, technically I've not even finished it, but this one was a bit surreal. You know, Lockdown by Peter May. I started reading this when we had our second lockdown, and I was whole of November and couldn't come back home. And everything was just like, this book was so surreal that I had a hard time getting out of my own head, and at the time my anxiety was quite bad, so I was like, you know what, I can't finish this book right now. But I think I've got like 50 pages left to read, and obviously I've not finished it yet, but I feel like the writing and the pace of the story, and just the fact that this book was written before we'd all knew what a lockdown was, is pretty cool. But it's not for the faint-hearted. If you are struggling with like your mind in lockdown, I wouldn't recommend reading it, because you'll be paranoid that you're gonna you get COVID or something. Anyway, so these were my top 5 thrillers that I read last year. If you have, oh god, if you have any thriller recommendations, let me know. And I shall see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.